We can go without him, all right? Yeah. He was coming from Nassau, he said. Court or something?
Good evening and welcome to the October 19th, 2021 meeting of the Town of Islip Zoning Board of Appeals. We'll read the public notice, then we'll begin to call applications. When I call your application, please proceed to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Notice is hereby given that the Board of Appeals of the Town of Islip will hold an in-person public meeting on Tuesday, October 19th, 2021 at Town Hall West, 401 Main Street, Islip, New York, 11751. The meeting will also be streamed live over the internet. Instructions on how to access the live stream are available on the town's website. Dated 10/18/2021, John M. Lorenzo, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, our first application tonight is number 661-21, Susan Liao, to renew permit for two-family, family use only, Residence A District, south side of Serene Place, number 15, 94.78 feet east of Seasong Boulevard, Hauppauge, New York. Is there anyone here for the applicant?
Good evening.
Hello.
Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Brian Liao. I live at 15 Serene Place. I'm here representing my mother, Susan Liao.
Great. So you're here to renew permit two-family, family use only. Age is the criteria, correct?
Correct.
Everything's in order, man? Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the application for a period of 3 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Next application is number 662-21. Nicholas Marchenko and Teresa Bergman. Is there anyone?
Oh, someone's here.
To renew permit for two-family, family use only, Residence AA District, east side of Spence Avenue, number 37, 193.72 feet north of Deerfield Court, Holtzville, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record.
Hi, 37 Spence, Nicholas Marchenko, 37 Spence Avenue, Holtzville, New York.
How are you
I'm here
tonight, sir?
representing my wife who is with her mom. She's 96, so she doesn't want to leave her
Sure.
at this point.
Sure. Well, it appears that age is the criteria. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we grant the application for a period of 3 years.
Second.
All in favor?
Thank
See you
you.
in 3 years.
Have a wonderful evening.
Take care, you too.
Next application, number 663-21. Anthony Hilton and Patricia Granger Life Estate. Is there anyone here on this application? Second call, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Next application, number 664-21. Jason and Andrea Cohen. Permission to leave pool patio having a side yard of 4 feet instead of required 6 feet, Residence A District, west side of Tanglewood Road, number 734, 700.47 feet north of Ryan Street, West Islip, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Jason Cohen, 734 Tanglewood Road, West Islip, New York.
How are you tonight?
Doing very well, thank you.
So you have a pool patio from your survey. It says pavers, a little bit too close. We see them multiple times a year. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion that we grant the application.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Take care.
Next application, number 665-21. Cesar Benavides, Rebecca Flor, and Amaha Benavides. Anyone here on this application?
Second call.
Chairman, thank you, sir.
It's 2 second calls.
Yes, sir. Next application was adjourned previously from June 9th, 2020. Number 329-20, Hector Barrios. Is anyone here on this application? Second call, please, Mr. Chairman.
Second call.
Next application, number 666-21, Matthew J. and Lori G. Clennon. Permission to leave deck 5 inches high, having a side yard of 0.3 feet instead of the required 4 feet, Residence AA District, north side of Riverdale Avenue, number 41, 80 feet west of Green Tree Drive, Oakdale, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Matt Clennon, 41 Riverdale Avenue, Oakdale.
How are you tonight?
Good, how you guys doing?
Is it really 5 inches high?
I'm I'll be honest. I'm
So it
not
looks
even
to you like
sure.
grade level proper, right?
Yeah, it's not, I think it's more of a little step, to be honest.
All right, maybe your property goes down over there? It's crazy. You guys good? I'm good.
Yep.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank
Have a
you,
good
guys.
night.
Have a nice
Next
night.
application number 667-21, Ioannis Panos and Courtney Stade. Permission to leave in-ground pool having a rear yard of 17.6 feet instead of required 18 feet, and pool equipment having a rear yard of 1.4 feet instead of the required 2 feet, Residence AA District, west side of Ocean Avenue, number 1450, 200 feet south of Madison Street, Bohemia, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Dieter Specht, whose office is at 265 Brookfield Avenue, St. Merchis.
How are you, Mr. Speck?
Hi, how you doing, guys? So I built this pool last year, and the pool is off by 6 inches, and the filter is off by, I guess, 0.6 of a foot.
Less than 6 inches, 4.8. Just for your math alone, it should be done. How do you build a pool 4.8 inches up? How could you do that?
What off the fence? Oh, yeah.
No, I didn't go off the fence.
What'd you go off of?
I used a survey, but it's, when you're using a scaled ruler on a survey, it can be off a tiny little bit, which obviously it was.
I think 4.8 inches is a rounding error.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Next application number 668-21, Thomas Weber and Jacqueline Mancino. Permission to install in-ground pool, leaving a front yard through lot of 18 feet instead of required 35 feet, and pool patio leaving front yard of 12 feet instead of required 29 feet. Residence AA District, west side of John Avenue, number 936, 112.61 feet north of Church Street, through lot to Nichols Road, Bayport, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record again, please.
Dieter Specht, whose office is at 265 Brookfield Avenue, St. Merchis.
How many inches do you need this time, sir?
No inches. So this property backs up to Nichols Road, but there is a wooded lot behind their house. My client measured it. It was at least 70 feet before it got overgrown, and he just couldn't walk through it safely. So there's plenty of woods behind the house. It's really nowhere near on top of Nichols Road.
All right. TJ, I'm assuming no objection for planning? Okay. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicole, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Next application
Thank
number
you for your
669-21, Jonathan Nemechek and Dorothy M. Dreher. Permission to leave driveway and patio on side property line, not having required setback of 4 feet, Residence AA District, west side of Walnut Avenue, number 1271, 679.15 feet south of Union Street, Bohemia, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Jonathan Nemesek, 1278 Walnut Avenue, Bohemia, New York.
How are you tonight?
Good.
So you were here in February. Was this not in the call, the driveway?
I wasn't here in February.
A year ago.
Oh, a year
Year and
ago.
a half.
Oh, yeah, that was for something different.
Something different? All right.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. So they put that in effort. Gotcha.
Most people are afraid to come back. You seem to like it.
Yeah, right.
So you put the driveway in after you got permission to the garage?
Yeah, it was, well, when I bought the house, it was kind of just all dirt and rocks. I just put more rocks in. It was like that when I got the place 3 years ago.
All right.
Yeah.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a good night.
Next application number 670-21, Eric Haller and Kathleen Kazmarzik. Permission to install in-ground pool, leaving a rear yard of 14 feet instead of the required 18 feet, Residence AA District, north side of Widgeon Court, number 93, 183.24 feet east of Provost Avenue, Great River. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Eric Haller, 93 Widgeon Court, excuse me, Great River, New York, 11739.
And how did I do with Catherine's name? Not bad, right?
I literally was walking up. Did you pronounce it?
Kazmarzik.
Kazmarzik, very good.
Wow. Good.
She'd be happy.
How are you tonight, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank
So
you.
you're looking to install an in-ground pool, 14 instead of 18?
Correct.
We normally, you guys good with that? One side,
I'm-
all
I'm-
right. We normally like to see one side comply, which is complying. That's what I was talking to them about.
Yeah, it's just on the.
Is there some
backside.
precedent, Deidre?
There's actually precedent for a rear yard 9.2 and a rear 10.7.
Okay, great.
Yeah, really.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a
I'll
motion.
make a motion that we grant the application.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted. Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Thank you all.
Next application number 671-21, Michael C. Scally. Permission to leave above-ground pool having a side yard of 11.4 feet instead of the required 14 feet. Residence A District, west side of Hobart Street, number 134, 72 feet north of Wensley Lane, East Islip, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Michael Scally. My address is 134 Hobart Street.
How are you tonight, sir?
Very good.
How long has the pool been up?
I bought the house in October last year, so it's been up there for a while.
So you bought it, what, up?
Yeah.
Gotcha. 11.4 instead of 14. So I think we'll have to take a vote from the board, but what we normally say is life of the pool. So if you have to do any major reconstruction of this above-ground pool, you just have to shift it over and comply with it.
Okay.
Setback, okay?
No
But then,
problem.
if you don't have to do any construction on it, just stay where it's at.
Okay.
All right, does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Nicoli, I'll take a motion.
Motion to grant the application. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Life of the pool.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Next application number 611-21, Pedro Donaire. Donaye. Sorry. Permission to leave 6-foot, is anyone here on this application? Okay, great. Permission to leave 6-foot fence, having a second front yard of 2.3 feet instead of required 10 feet, and shed having a second front yard of 15.9 feet instead of the required 35 feet. Residence AA District, southeast corner of Nugent Avenue, number 1108, and Garden City Street, Bay Shore, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, and teach me how to say it properly, please.
Good evening. My name is Louis Donaire, 1108 Nugent Avenue.
I had it right the first time.
Yeah, you did.
All right.
How are you tonight?
I'm good. And yourself?
Good. So you have a 6-foot fence that's in the second front yard.
Well, the fence was already existing there since we bought the property about 10 years ago.
I'm sorry, can you speak up a little bit?
Oh, yeah, the fence was already it's existing when we bought the property about 10 years ago.
Yeah, we see that a lot, and we hear that a lot. It's terrible for the
So
applicant.
What they told us is the fence is not within enough space from the street.
I can't hear you, you gotta speak in that microphone.
So they said that the fence is not within enough space from the actual street, but everybody else's fence is literally in the same line.
Oh,
No, I
right in between the edge of pavement, I think is where he's talking.
Oh, the edge of pavement.
Yeah.
We have actually the new
What's
blueprints.
across the street from you, more residences?
Garden City Street.
Excuse me?
Garden City Street.
I know, I said, is that resident, I can't say it's a residence across from that?
Yes.
The other side of Garden City?
There's one in front and behind us too.
How far back is it from the edge of the pavement?
It's, yeah, 7.6 to the property line, and then it goes another, how many feet is it off? It's off another,
They told us that we have to move it another 10
2, 3, so
feet.
it's 8.3.
End of
John, it
page
looks like
two.
at the closest point, it's
If it was,
over 11 feet from the street.
One area is also 8,000.
Oh,
Oh.
that's
No,
100 by
but
200.
It says
huh?
100 by 200. You're on the wrong survey. You're in Garden City.
It's 19,
You're in Garden City.
it's 19,999.95 square feet.
Mr. Exact, maybe.
I'm reading on the survey.
I thought you did the math.
I did that too. I'm not that.
Yeah,
I think we generally deny these left and right.
we do. Want to reserve?
yeah,
I mean, I'll give them the denial.
So then we also have a shed in the back that's
about half,
half of the way.
not even.
What's that? Is that shed the one all the way in the back, the frame shed?
Yes, that's a new construction.
Say that
It's a
again?
small shed. I'm saying that's a new shed that he just built.
59 instead of 35. Give him a shed.
So tiny.
No idea. Sure. Yeah, if you want to give him a shed and take this across.
Yeah, give him the shed tonight. Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right, too.
yeah.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Yes, I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we grant the application, so much of the application for the sheds on the easterly portion of the property, but deny the fence. So the reason that we are denying the fence is that we see dozens of these a week, and we routinely deny having 6-foot fences on the property line. I know your neighbors have them, but in due course, they will not.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So the shed's gonna have to be moved into the 10-foot mark.
The shed, you said,
I
right?
mean, the fence has to be moved into the 10-foot mark.
No, no, pero dice que está bien, pero es por el tamaño de las cosas, entonces bien. Any other recommendation instead of moving it? Should it be shorted or as far as the fence?
I believe, can you make it
4 feet.
4 feet? Yeah, you could bring it down to 4 feet where it's at.
Give them the arborvitae.
Yeah.
Here we go. I know. That's
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Next
very much.
application number
Have a good night.
670, next application number 672-21. Frank V. Aracchioni, permission to leave second-story addition 32.1 feet by 33.3 feet, having a floor area ratio 29.3% instead of required 25%. Residence B District, south side of Deer Road, number 218, 500 feet west of Haven Avenue, Ronkonkoma, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Frank Recchione, 218 Deer Road, Ronkonkoma.
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. Leaving the second-story addition floor area ratio is 29.3. We see up to 30. We give up to 30 from 25, so you're right under our threshold. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Salvin, I'll take a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Application
Thank
granted. Have a good night.
Next application number 673-21, Kathleen Calandra. Permission to leave detached garage 24.3 feet by 28.3 feet, having a side yard of 9.1 feet instead of required 10 feet. In-ground pool having a side yard of 9 feet instead of required 10 feet. And pool patio on side of and rear property lines not having required setback of 6 feet. Residence B District, north side of Jericho Street, number 223, 129.27 feet east of Pacific Avenue, East Islip, New York. Ma'am, your name and address for the record, please.
Pam Calandra, 223 Jericho Street, East Islip. I'm representing my mom.
How are you today? You're just gonna have to speak into that
Oh,
microphone.
I'm sorry. Do I have to repeat that?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Pamela Calandra, 223 Jericho Street, East Islip, New York, and I'm her daughter.
You're just going to have to slow down a little too, because the court report is never going to be able to get you.
Okay, sorry. Pamela Calandra. Same address, 223 Jericho.
You here for your mom?
Yes,
Now Kathleen's your mother?
yes.
Thank you.
Permission to leave the detached garage. It looks like they went off the fence when they measured for the garage,
Yeah.
right? In-ground pool inside at 9, so required 10. Hold the minimus. Pool patio, rear property lines. Does anyone, what's that?
Just making sure, at some point or another,
We lowered
your mom
it.
had to lower the
Yep,
roof,
it was
right?
21 and now it's 14 feet.
I don't see the decision here, but there was a
Okay.
time when the board actually denied height.
Okay. But when I did, height's not even a call, right?
No, no, they lowered it.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a
I'll
motion.
make a motion that we grant the application.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Application granted.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
good night.
Have a great night.
Next application is
Yes, sir.
scheduled for 6:30 PM. It is now 6:21, so Mr. Chairman, I would move that we adjourn for 9 minutes.
We have to go, second.
All right, we will be back in 9 minutes,
We are that good.
Thank you.
promptly.
And it wasn't in the Ferndale file, the one. Oh, good, now I can show you.
There's only what starts to say.
Oh, I didn't know. Who knew? Since when?
I'm just kidding. Oh, yeah, you just right now, you texted me.
Texted you, what time was that, like 5 to 6?
Yeah, what did I tell you?
Anything new, Dan, or SOS? Yeah.
Ray's apparently very, very confident.
I think you did a good job.
Very confident.
No, no, no.
Candidates always are, but.
Yeah, exactly.
Sent it to,
I still think it's.
I'm sorry? Oh, thank you, sir.
He says it every time, but it's just turnout. Who stays home, who comes out.
But you know what? Oh, are we off or are we on?
Yes, we're off the street.
Oh.
You guys ready? All right, we'll resume the call of the calendar. It is after 6:30. We'll begin with the second calls from the 6 PM calendar.
I don't understand what it's presenting.
First was Anthony Hilton and Patricia Granger Life Estate. Is there anyone here on that application? All right, next is Cesar Benavides, Rebecca Floor, and Amaha Benavides. That's number 665-21. Permission to use dwelling for two-family, family use only pursuant to Islip Town Code, Section 68-419.1. And to leave driveway having a side yard of 1 foot instead of required 4 feet, Residence A, AA District, west side of Connecticut Avenue, number 886, 250 feet south of Rockaway Street, Islip Terrace. Your name and address for the record, please.
Yeah, turn it on.
It's on the,
Just yell at us, everybody else does.
Hello? Okay.
there you go.
Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York.
How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well.
We are here today to establish a two-family, family use only. It's based on age, and to leave a portion of the driveway having a side yard of 1 foot instead of the required 4 feet.
Great. Seems like the driveway is only a small portion of the driveway that's
That's towards the house,
there
yeah.
toward the back. All right, and everything else is in order. Age is the criteria. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll make a motion that we grant the application with respect to the driveway and also for the two-family, family use only for a period of 3 years.
All in favor?
Aye.
All in favor? Aye, sorry. I was-
That's okay.
Next application is also second call. This application was previously adjourned from June 9th, 2020. Number 329-20, Hector Barrios. Permission to leave addition 10.4 feet by 31 feet to detached garage having a rear yard of 1.3 feet instead of required 10 feet. Second front yard of 5.3 feet instead of required 35 feet with gross floor area of garage exceeding the ground floor area of the dwelling. And to leave a shed on the rear property line not having the required setback of 2 feet. Residence AA District, northwest corner of Joshua's Path, number 1908, and Nostrand Avenue, Central Islip, New York. Again, your name and address for the record, please.
Roxanne Trella, Dynamic Expediting Services with offices at 1040 Terry Road, Ronkonkoma, New York.
How are you tonight? Again?
I'm good, thank you.
We
So
opened
have
adjourned this
a-
last time, so
I did. We did adjourn it. I wanted to go to the property myself and just take a look at the garage and the surrounding area. So they were able to legalize a big portion of the garage in 2010. And they added about a little over 300 square feet to it. They kept it in line with the garage that was already legalized. This is a very unusual lot. The house itself received an approval for a non-conforming dwelling in 1978 from the board. It's set back pretty far. It's almost catty-cornered on the property. The concern was also the neighbor. I did go by the property and I looked at the neighbor. They actually planted like 30-foot arborvitaes. The garage is not even visible from the neighbor's house at all. You can't even see it from the street, which was the biggest concern here.
but they expanded, they got a CFC in 2010 for an 888 square foot garage, correct?
Yes, so they expanded a small portion of it. It's a little over 300 square feet over to the right. So they kept in line with what was already granted to them. And they're not going further into the second front yard. They're going closer to the house. They built almost like a small shed attached to this garage.
I understand, but what do we do with it exceeding the ground floor area of the dwelling? We deny them all day long. I mean, with the detached structure, that's big.
I did explain that to the client. He understands. He says that he built a smaller portion so that he could have like a storage shed, because the main detached garage he uses to store his cars. So he didn't have anywhere to store it. He understands that he did it without the benefit of a permit, and he does understand the consequences of doing that.
Well, he understands that, but does he understand the consequence of it? And that is, he's gonna have to either take something down or make the main dwelling bigger. That's,
I'm looking at it from a different perspective in that 1.3 instead of 10, by my math, that's 87% relaxation. I don't know if anybody knows the exact definition of substantial, but I'm guessing that's it. How do we, I know you don't have pearls of wisdom, but you do. How do we grant that and still have some integrity left with the code?
I think what he was basing his idea when he initially built this was that the lot used to be commercial. He knew what it was previously zoned. Back in when the original house was built, there used to be a gas station where they used to house, big vehicles and excavators there. So he assumed that because it was done in the past, he would be able to do it today.
That old saying about assuming.
all right.
I don't know.
Why don't we hear what planning has to say?
Planning. What does Deirdre from planning have to say?
It is unusual, just changes it's gone through, but it is a very large structure. I don't know what could kind of specify it to make it different from anyone else that's coming for another large garage that's bigger than my house.
Sure. What do we do?
We can do it right. Why don't we
We'll do it, okay.
Yeah, why don't we do it right now? I have one, we know what we're gonna do.
No?
Well, well, we just have to ask the audience. right?
Yeah, of course.
Well, let me ask you a question. What do we want to do? I can take this down with the original way.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, that's, all right, we can do it.
And the shed is on the property line, but.
Yeah.
It's over the property line.
Yeah.
You know, Roxanne, the shed appears over the property line?
Yes, that he is going to move on to his property line.
All the way, if he can move it onto the property line, he can move it a little further too, no?
You want to have it a foot off the property line? I mean, 2.
I don't care if it's on the property line, we just can't do
Okay.
anything over the property line.
If everyone else is okay with it, that's fine.
Yeah.
Deny this. You can let him- What do you want to have it 6 in the foot off
Just
on
motion.
the property? Okay,
I don't care if that's on the property line.
okay.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wax, I'll take a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to make a motion that with respect to the frame shed, that has got to be moved onto the applicant's property, but we'll allow it on the property line, at least on the applicant's side of the property line, not the other guys. Yeah. Although I know a line has no width in geometry, but it's got to be on the right side. And then with respect to the frame and block garage, that we deny the application and respectfully will direct in our decision that the garage be brought back to what it was existing prior to the addition. I don't have the exact footage on there, so
888 square feet.
888 square foot was the existing?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what was CO'd in 2010.
888 square feet. And the removal's got to be on the addition which faces to the north.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Anyone want to second that? Please?
All in favor?
Nobody wants to second it.
No, somebody give me a second. See the respect.
All in
I have?
favor?
Aye.
Have a great night, Roxanne.
Thank you. Good night, guys.
Thank you.
All right, now proceeding to our 6:30 calendar. Daniel J. and Renee B. Sussman, permission to erect second-story addition 12 feet by 24 feet. Leave front yard of 30.5 feet instead of required 40 feet. Side yard of 3.8 feet instead of required 14 feet. And total side yards of 17.4 feet instead of the required 28 feet. Residence A District, west side of Ackerson Boulevard, number 1354, 440 feet south of Huron Drive, Bay Shore, New York. Both of your names and address for the applicant, for the record, please.
Hi, good evening. Renee B. Sussman, 1354 Ackerson Boulevard, Bay Shore, New York. Daniel Sussman, 1354 Ackerson Boulevard, Bay Shore, New York.
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you?
Good. So you're seeking permission to erect a second-story addition, 30.5 instead of 40, side yard 3.8 instead of 14.
As you can see, the positioning of the addition is on top of an existing garage. We're not expanding any further than what is already granted in the variance that we have from when we purchased the house 17 years ago. So we're not shortening the distances in any capacity. We just want to build on top.
If I may ask, my concern, sir, is that it's already extremely compromised at 3.8. I guess is it legacy? Did it predate the code?
It's a one-story garage.
So, yeah, so at 3.8, and now you want to put a story on top of that, I think you take such an extremely compromised area to begin with. It's not your fault, I get it, you bought the house, and now you want to double down on it. I just don't think that's, in my mind, that's good planning.
Well, we do have photographs of houses in the neighborhood that are also very close to their property lines with the addition on top of their garage.
So Ms. Ryan, what's next door to the garage, if you could point that out to me on the aerial? And where's the house on the next lot? I'm sorry. All right. Oh, okay.
It's so close. And it's not as though it was in the rear or the houses are offset. It's right on top of your neighbors. I guess that's to the north. I don't know how we do justice to our code and our prior decisions by granting it. I'm just one vote.
No, I understand.
The closest precedent I could find was a side yard of 7.
7?
The first floor is legal, right?
Yes, it was actually, I think in a ZBA decision in 04 as well.
Right, but that was a garage.
It's been-
It was a garage, it wasn't living space.
Right, right.
Big
but the
difference.
side yard is legal.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah, it's CO'd circa 1950, it says in the CO.
And what happened in 04?
04, there was another case where it was bought up, but it was just, I have to bring as well. Three, I think because of how old it was.
On the same property?
Yeah.
And in 04, was it living space?
I think it was garage stuff.
If I may, Deidre, I'm sorry, maybe I didn't catch it. How did the garage get to be there? Was that by grant of this board, legacy?
I think the CS was built in the 50s.
Oh,
and
so-
then the ZBA decision, I kind of just legalized it where it was as well.
Right.
It just talked about it briefly.
I don't know how, well, I made my point.
So the map for this area was filed before 1952.
Right.
So the lots, as you can see, are only 60 feet wide,
Mhm.
and the setbacks would have only been 4 feet required.
But we don't even have,
4 feet required.
we don't even have precedent for it.
Well, for the second
For the second story.
Just answering your question as to how it got to
Right,
that close.
and that's what they're seeking. We're not
Correct.
going to change anything existing.
As I said, we do have some photos of similar properties in our neighborhood.
You can hand them up. I don't even know where Jay is, but there is. Jay, can you grab them for me?
Bill, this is the neighbor to the north, the
Sure.
impacted neighbor.
Well,
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just those two.
We had one additional
I was like,
clarifying photo.
Oh, is this it? Oh, there it is. Thank you.
Escape sheets.
I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
The blue house is 1348 Potter, which is 2 blocks from our house.
Mhm.
And the brown house
It's Huron.
is Huron, which
Just
is
north of us.
around the corner, or across the street. That's 78 Huron.
78.
Why don't we reserve that for Chris?
Yep. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Coming up, if you guys don't mind stepping aside while they speak.
Of course.
Just one at a time, name and address for the record. Please speak clearly and slowly.
Don't mind the rugs, man.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the rugs are there, but it's a new decor. Town of Islip.
Someone suggested a magic carpet ride, but I wouldn't recommend it.
I kind of like the blue one. You know, if you guys would help me, I'll put it in my car.
Like in the Godfather.
Yeah.
We'll roll it up.
Good evening.
Hi from Jay.
No one finds us funny, by the way.
Yeah, I know.
Good evening.
Jane
Name and
Baker,
address for the record, please.
1356 Ackerson.
How are you tonight?
Jane Baker.
And your name, sir?
I'm Harry Baker. I'm her son. I'm just here with her.
Great. Go ahead, state your case.
In
You want me,
early,
you want me to talk?
You just got to speak into the
Speak into the
microphone, because we can't hear you.
Her complaint with this is that the garage that they're going over on the top of was grandfathered in only with the stipulation that it wasn't used for a car garage or living space because of the fact that it's already close enough to the property line as it is. There's only probably about a 36-inch walkway that separates the property line now. If there's living space allowed to be put above it, what's going to happen is, God forbid, there's a fire. Now we're that much closer to her house. So she's concerned with that. She's also concerned with privacy because there's going to be windows on that side of the house, and her bedroom windows are all on that side of the house.
Sure. Understood. Understood.
Who exactly, when you say they grandfathered it in on the condition, who was they?
The town did it because originally that garage,
Who,
The zoning board did it.
oh, there's a previous ZBA? Thank you.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Is that in our decision of 04?
That's the mistake.
the town did that, I think, about,
What about the one from the
it was either 2003 or 4 that was.
Okay, we have it. Thank you.
Oh,
So then they did this
so there's only one decision.
Yes. There we go.
I have a picture of how close the houses will be.
You'd have to give us the phone, and we don't want to take your phone. So we have a lot of pictures here. And we have an aerial, so we can see how it is.
Because this is her place.
Yeah, we can't, I would love to look at it, but we can't, we'd have to put it in a file, and you don't want your phone with us, so. We see it we see it on the aerial over here. On that, but thank you. You guys, you have anything further to say, or?
No, that's,
And then like if I ever wanted to go up, they wouldn't let us, we put an extension on in 1973. They wouldn't let us go out to the end of the house in the back
Sure,
because we were too close to them.
okay,
Now they want to come even closer to me.
gotcha, understood.
They may not have even been born in 1973. 75?
Don't brag. Don't brag.
76, okay.
It's really not nice.
I'm even old up here.
Well, we appreciate your time, thank you. Be careful walking back up the runway over there.
And if you see one of the rugs you like.
Does anyone else wish to be heard in this
Like
application?
we have a rack of clothing.
Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicoli, I'll take a motion.
Motion to reserve decision.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're going to reserve decision. We're going to investigate this and look deep into it. We have 62 days by law. We'll get it done as quickly as possible, and then we'll have a decision rendered to you in the mail to you guys.
Via the mail?
It'll be in the mail.
Okay, very good.
All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
all. Have a good night. Next application, number 675-21, Eaton Enterprises 1 LLC. Permission to erect a one-story addition 10 feet by 32.7 feet irregular, leaving side yard of 10.9 feet instead of the required 14 feet to leave pavers on side property line, and driveway having a side yard of 2 feet instead of required 4 feet each, Residence A District, west side of Wagstaff Lane, number 90, 703.35 feet south of Magoon Road, West Islip, New York. Your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Thomas Petito, 199 Eaton Lane, West Islip. Yeah, P-I-T-I-T-T-O.
Mr. Petito, if you can just pull that microphone up closer to you so we can hear. Appreciate it. How are you tonight?
Very well, yourself?
Good. You're representing Eaton Enterprises?
Yes,
So you're seeking a one-story addition?
yes.
Side yard of 10.9 instead of 14. Pavers and driveway, I don't see an issue with. The house existing holds 10.9 right now?
Yes.
So you're just going straight above it?
Excuse me?
Oh, you're just closing it in the back, I see.
Just closing that corner off, right?
Okay. Did you any objection from planning? Okay. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wexler, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to grant the application.
Second. All in favor?
All right.
Thank you very much. Have a good
Have a
evening.
great night.
Next application number 676-21, Carlos and Sarah Taban. Permission to leave second-story deck having a rear yard of 10.5 feet instead of the required 25 feet. And above-ground pool having a second front yard of 7.4 feet instead of the required 20 feet. Residence B District Northeast corner of Fifth Avenue, number 103, and Lincoln Avenue, Holbrook, New York. Name and address for both of you, please, for the record.
Sarah Tobon, 103 Fifth Street, Holbrook, New York.
I'm Carlos Tobon. I live in Holbrook, 103 Fifth Street.
Great, how are you guys tonight?
Good.
Okay.
So you have a second-story deck. It's a little too close to the
That
rear
was
yard.
there, that deck was there when we bought the house in 1998.
1998, the deck was there? It appears that it's just a small portion of it that's out a little too far.
I think what they did, the prior people.
Can you speak a little louder? We can't.
Yes, I think the prior people who owned it, I think they used it for like a barbecue.
Barbecue
We put
area?
flower pots there right now. But that was there also as well when we got the home.
How about the pool? How long has the pool been there?
8, 9 years after I retired, we decided to buy a pool.
Yeah, it's an interesting location for a pool.
I know.
I don't know where else you could
Deirdre
put
from
it.
planning, any, no precedent? You go with the second-story deck? Yeah. You get knife for the pool?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's my taste.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Like it.
Okay. Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Messina, I will take a motion.
Motion to grant the application for the life of the pool with respect to the pool.
And second for the life of the motion.
All in favor? So life of the pool, as you probably heard in the past, is that if you have to reconstruct the pool in any way, you got to move it to a location
Or
that's,
take it out.
or take it out.
So you
Right.
keep it there as long as it doesn't change.
Yeah.
Right,
So
but this
once it-
construction,
Yeah, because it's above ground pool. So once it
Yeah.
falls apart, you have to move it
You're
to compliant.
that'll be it.
How old is
That'll
the
be
pool?
it for us too.
How old is the pool?
It's 9 years old, 2012. we got it.
Yeah, you got another 10 years out of it.
Yeah, it's a good pool. We bought it. We went through the good place to get it, so hopefully we'll
All
get
right.
some more life
Good
out of it.
Great.
And thank you very much.
You guys have a great night.
You too
All
as
right,
well.
take care.
Next application number 677-21, Christopher J. Grimaldi. Permission to erect a second-story deck 12.2 feet by 14 feet, leaving a front yard of 12.1 feet instead of the required 25 feet. Two-story decking 13.8 feet by 14 feet, leaving a rear yard of 11 feet instead of the required 25 feet. Roof deck 11 feet by 12 feet, leaving a side yard of 14.5 instead of required 15 feet. And a 5-foot wide entrance ramp and platform on front property line, not having required setback of 15 feet, all having a floor area ratio of 51.9% instead of permitted 30%, and to install grade level decking on rear property line, not having a required setback of 15 feet, Residence B AA District, northwest corner of Oak Walk number 70, and Central Walk, Fair Harbor, New York. Welcome, name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Michael Dunn, DUNN. I'm here for the Grimaldis.
How are you, Mr.
Good
Dunn?
evening, how you doing?
Good.
So it seems like we're asking for a lot on here in black and white. All of those decks are existing and they have been there for 40 years. They are CO'd, all of them except for the grade level deck. We do have a CO and an inspection report that kind of states that. So we are looking to rebuild them because they are old and shoddy and falling apart. So they're looking to get Sam Wood in there to rebuild them.
So you just rebuilding the decks?
Well,
that
we're
are
gonna
there.
square off some of the angles. There's some like 80s or 70s angles to them. We just want to square them off.
But it's
the same
basically
size. We'll stay
an
the same
in-kind
size.
replacement?
Say that again?
It's an in-kind
It's
replacement,
an in-kind
essentially?
replacement, yes.
Thanks.
What do we have as far as precedent for 51.9%?
Well, it was existing, and it was CO'd, right?
Yeah, it was.
At 51.9?
I don't know if they necessarily specified that 51.9, but the decks I think were implemented in the 60s on the CO. It does say like when they were built.
Yeah.
There is precedent for 56.7 and
Wow.
a 53%.
Okay.
That are all active improvements, so.
Thank you.
They say circa 1978. Yeah.
Might as well have been the 50s.
Yeah.
So when you're young as
Yeah.
Deirdre.
Were you born in 1978?
So
Axel, why do you ask that? That's like
can I ask a question to you, Mr. Dunn?
sadistic.
I'm getting,
It
we're
makes
getting
us
old.
old, I
Yeah.
know.
The rooftop, the
I know
picture,
they are asking for a small 14.5 feet instead of 15. We could make that comply and make it a 15-foot setback
for the rooftop.
for the rooftop.
I think, I'm fine.
Yeah, I'm not concerned. I'm just looking, Mr. Chairman and I were discussing while you were presenting, not that we weren't paying attention, but there's no railing on the roof. They have a stairway to the roof and no railing. I'm sure that doesn't comply with any town code.
You need
Right.
a state code for that.
See, I think that was part of the demo. It was falling apart, so they took it down, the new owners.
Oh, okay,
Oh.
gotcha.
Okay.
That's
It's
why
like
there
the
will be a
stairwell.
railing there.
Okay.
Yes.
There has to be, by state
There will
code,
be,
there has to
yeah.
be a rail.
No, no.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Come on down. Mr. Dunn, if you can step aside, if you don't mind. Just name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Barbara Wilson, 65 Pine Walk in Fair Harbor.
How are you tonight?
Good, how are you doing today?
Good.
I have several questions about this because I own the house behind them.
Okay.
And what are they considering their front yard? Because I know on the corner, you supposedly have two front yards. Are they considering the front yard on Oak, or are they considering the front yard on Central when they're making these descriptions?
Well, the address says number 70 Oak Walk, I believe.
Right.
Right, but
does.
when I went to do work, I was told I had two front yards because I was on the corner.
Well, you have a
And they
second front yard, but they have to choose a front
Okay,
street
so the front yard
frontage.
they're saying is Oak.
They're saying, the town's saying 70 Oak Walk, so
Okay. Also, are they expanding these decks in any way?
you can ask up here. We just can't hear
Okay.
you, so. According to Mr. Dunn's testimony for his client, they're rebuilding them. They're just squaring some of the harsh angles off on them.
Well, I don't remember any rooftop deck, and that would actually overlook into my property.
Well, I believe they're allowed to have the rooftop deck if they have a certain side yard, which they're only a half a foot off on.
They have several decks on the property.
I understand that,
right?
but they can have the rooftop deck if they required setback on it. They're only asking for a 0.5, a half a foot relaxation on the side yard.
Well, according to this, they're all overbuilding by 21%, correct?
Well, but there's A, there's precedent, and B, it's CO'd that way from back circa 1978.
And there's a CO for the
All the
roof deck?
decks, all the decks, well, all the decks for you're talking about the FAR, is that what you're saying, overbuilding? I'm
Yes.
assuming.
There were 3 roof decks at 19.
Excuse me?
There were roof decks at 19 on the original structure. They've been there.
Yeah. So the decks have been there and they're CO'd on it. I guess you call them the rooftop deck, was there according to Mr. Dunn's testimony, but was taken down at some point in the past. And they're just looking for a half a foot relaxation. If they don't use a half a foot, they don't even need to come to us for it. They can,
Yeah, no, I don't have a problem with that, but also, are they measuring, there's a right-of-way between the two houses, which
Okay.
the former owner sort of just took over.
Okay.
Are they considering that as part of their property line? Or are they considering, because you'll see there's like a, almost like a,
Oh, that's a utility path. Yeah, their decks, according to the plans and the survey, which is from a licensed engineer and surveyor, the applicant's structures are on the property line, not into that right of way, the utility path. They're on the property line.
what I'm asking though is when they're saying the measurement of 11 feet or whatever it is.
They would
here,
have to go off their property line, not the utility path.
Ma'am, 11 feet is from the property line, and the property line does not encroach into the utility.
Okay, so that almost like a driveway.
It's,
is-
they call it a utility path on.
So that's the
in Carroll.
utility path, it's not their property line.
That's
Okay,
exactly,
because I
yeah.
just wanted to make sure that it wasn't going to be
Yeah,
that.
they have to go off
close.
of their property line, which is not the utility.
Okay, so it's not going to be 11 feet from,
The other side of the utility path, no.
okay.
It's actually
Yeah.
gonna be-
So I was going to
it looks
say,
like it's
that's a
gonna be-
little too close.
Yeah,
It
no.
looks like it's gonna be 18 feet from the far side of the utility path. So it's 11 feet from the property line, and it looks like on the survey, the utility path is 7 feet. Why?
Is there any way that I can look at a? Just-
I'm sure Mr. Dunn has something right there that you can
Thank you. I
take a
don't
peek
need
at.
to be, and I don't want to start this way with my neighbors in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so,
The property line, and then the utility path is on the other side. See where it says utility path?
okay, so we're talking about there. So he's not talking, because I'm like right here. Okay. All right, thank you.
All right? Thank you so much for your time. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Mr. Dunn,
He's good.
you good?
Yeah, let's take a.
Mr. D, you good? I don't know if you wanted to say anything further, so before I make a motion. You good?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Wex, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we grant the application.
All in favor?
All right.
Application granted.
Next application number 678-21, Dennis Buckshaw. Permission to leave detached garage 22.3 feet by 24.3 feet, having height of 14.7 feet instead of permitted 14 feet. Rear yard of 5.3 feet and side yard of 6.5 feet instead of the required 10 feet each. Residence A District, south side of Forest Avenue, number 34, 204 feet west of Edgewater Road, Oakdale, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. It's Dennis Buckshaw at 34 Forest Avenue, Oakdale, New York.
How are you tonight?
Very good. How about you?
Good. And you've been in front of us a few times at this property,
Yes, I
right?
have.
What happened?
We built the garage way back, I guess, 5 years ago. We just put all the paperwork in with all the delays and stuff like that. We had it inspected 3 times. Not until we put our final papers in with the final surveys and stuff, that it went to the zoning, and zoning kicked it back and said that the measurements are wrong. Now, I had a foundation inspection, I had a frame inspection, and I had a final inspection. And including myself, we did not pick up the wrong measurements. So the only thing I could figure out what happened when it was built originally, wherever the lines were, instead of using the lines as the outside walls, they used them for the inside walls.
This is a little more than that.
Well, it's about 40 square feet, I think I'm off.
And how about the height?
The height, we took it from the crown of the road, which is 4.0. My garage floor is 4.0. I probably could have saved, they said I'm 7 inches too tall. And I'm assuming it was an average of the garage instead of from the crown of the road. So that's where the measurements came up wrong. Plus, I put a ridge vent on top of the garage, which I could probably save myself 3 or 4 inches.
So you're saying that the ridge vent and the material brought you up to 7 inches?
Well, I'm just saying, if they took the average, I don't know how they came up with the 14.7. I don't know if they took the average of the garage around it, the average grade. We took our shots from the crown of the road.
I don't think, I'm sorry, Mr. Messina.
No, but you're saying, you have rear yard of 5.3, side yard of 6.5, instead of required 10. That's not the width of the materials on the outside of the
No,
structure.
what I'm saying was, it was the crown of the road. What,
No, that's
For
the
the
height.
height.
I get the height. I understand that. But what I'm talking about is your side yard.
well, the side yard, originally, that garage was supposed to be 500 square feet.
And you built it bigger.
Well, we
Yes or
didn't know we
no?
built it bigger.
I'm sorry?
We didn't know we built it bigger.
You didn't know you built it bigger
Well,
than
what
500
happened-
square
no.
feet?
What happened, we had the foundation inspection, okay? They-
I
they gave it to
understand, I
continue.
understand your point on that, and I'm somewhat sympathetic if that in fact is the case. But you knew you built something bigger than 500 square feet. You're not a rookie.
I'm not saying I oversaw it, or everybody made the same mistake all the way down the line. I know it's a poor excuse, but
Well,
You
then
know,
don't put
everybody
it
told me
forward,
to
then don't put it
continue.
forward. Okay? It is what it is.
Deidre, anything from planning?
Please.
Yeah, I don't think we ever grant over 14.
But the argument of the height, I don't really have that much of a problem with, because that definitely could have been miscalculated with Crown and Road and the floor of it, and
That's an easy one to make, you know.
it's the side and the rear.
Yeah.
You're so far off on the side and rear that, and it seems odd that your builders would be so concerned about the crown of the road and getting the exact height when they're so far off on the side yards. It doesn't make sense unless it was willful. Unless, yeah, well,
I don't know, we should reserve and discuss.
yeah,
it.
that's a good idea.
Absolutely.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Does the board have any questions? Mr. Sullivan, I'm taking a motion.
Chairman, make a motion to reserve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Buckshot, we're going to discuss it and see what we can do and talk about, and we'll get a decision to you as soon as we can. Any sort of timeframe? Are you selling the house, or are you living in it?
They actually were supposed to go to closing tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yes.
Well, you're not going to get a favorable decision by tomorrow, I don't think. So do you want a decision just to have one, or would you rather me to reserve?
No, I like to, whatever we have to do.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We have 62 days. We're going to do as best we can. Thanks.
All right, next application, and the final one for the evening, for which there is a public hearing, number 679-21. Kurt Bar Enterprises LLC, permission to subdivide a lot into two parcels, resulting in wetlands yield of 0.38 instead of required 2, having overall lot area of 22,372 square feet instead of the required 40,660 square feet. Lot 1, to erect a dwelling on a lot having a width of 50 instead of the required 75 feet. Side yards of 7 and 10 feet. Total side yards of 17 feet instead of the required 28 feet. Lot 2, to erect dwelling on lot having a width of 50 feet instead of the required 75 feet. Side yards of 7 feet and 10 feet. Total side yards of 17 feet instead of the required 28 feet. Residence A/WM AAA Wetlands Overlay District, east side of Brookville Avenue, number 205, 971.3 feet south of 46th Street, Islip, New York. Sir, your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Garrett Gray, Weber Law Group, 290 Broad Hollow Road, Melville, New York, for the applicant.
How are you tonight?
Fantastic.
I
How
like
you
to hear
doing?
that. I like to hear that. State your case.
It's Garrett Gray.
I'm sorry?
You said Garrett Gray.
No, I said state your case. I
Oh,
said
I'm
no.
sorry.
We have horrible acoustics in this beautiful building, so we can
Quite all right.
Waited to the last one to get it
Yeah,
in.
usually he makes a comment about the building application.
I feel honored myself.
We have gorgeous rugs covering some chairs if anyone
Is the flea market open later?
Good.
So I'm the attorney for Statewide Roofing and Kurt Bar Enterprises, the owner of the subject property. Statewide Roofing and Kurt Bar Enterprises, the owners of the subject property. Joining me today is Eric Jeter of Hayduck Engineering, the engineers for the project, as well as John Breslin from Breslin Appraisal, our real estate expert. expert. Also with me today is Jerry Curtin, Statewide's president and an Islip resident for 71 years. Statewide has been in business over the past 37 years and has roofed 18 schools in Brentwood School District, 2 schools in West Islip, 2 schools in Sayville, 1 school in Bayport, Blue Point, 1 in Central Islip, 1 in Islip, 4 in Connecticut.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but if I could just focus you on what's important, not what schools have been moved.
Lots of
Very
schools.
interesting, but,
And this building too.
okay.
Okay,
My question is,
why are
what-
we here?
Why should we do this?
Yes,
yeah, give me precedent that we've
Yep.
granted enough of these to make it the nature and character of the neighborhood.
absolutely. Okay, this application requires a little background, and I will be as quick as I can.
You won't tell us how many are in a 200?
I'm done with it. The subject property, as you know, is located at 205 Brookville Avenue in Islip. The property, although zoned Residence A, has been in operation as an industrial use for over 40 years and has established itself as a legal prior non-conforming use. Though completely legal, this use, as you might imagine, has concerned the surrounding neighbors for some time, causing them to make numerous complaints to the town. Approximately 6.5 years ago, on or about March 27th, 2015, Statewide met with then Town Planning Commissioner Rich Sapolsky and Gene Murphy of the Town Planning Department to discuss these complaints. At this meeting, the town asked Statewide to consider a land swap with the town, whereby the town would take and preserve Statewide's Brookville Avenue parcel in exchange for a town-owned parcel located in an industrial zone. Statewide agreed. Over the course of the next year, we had over 15 meetings with the town and the New York State DEC.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but did this land swap occur?
No,
So how is that relevant to whether or not the spatial relationship of 50 instead of 75 is relevant? I mean,
We
let's
have
say.
5 factors on area variance.
Yeah, exactly. Let me
It's-
just say, it may be interesting to know about
let
prior
me, let me,
history.
let me sum up the relevance then. Okay, the town wanted the land swap. We agreed.
But it didn't go through.
It didn't go through, but we spent,
But I know what you're saying. Let's say you spent $20 million, 8,000 meetings, and the town changed their mind. Let's say that happened, we're gonna give that to you. And you can
Okay.
say all of the bad things about the town and bad faith and whatever. Okay, the question is, how does this, why should we grant this?
okay,
That's what's concerning us. And going back to my original question, Mr. Garrett, give us how many 50 footers there are in a 200-foot radius.
I'm gonna give you that when I call Mr. Breslin.
You won't give it to me now, even if I ask nicely?
Okay. You know what, why don't I call Mr. Breslin now?
There you go.
Since
Sure.
That's what you want. Go ahead, John.
Mr. Breslin will have that information.
At his fingertips.
Yes. Good evening.
Good evening, John Breslin, Principal and President of Breslin Appraisal Company, 44 Elm Street in Huntington. I was requested by the applicant to make a study of this proposed application and give an opinion with respect to the standards under 267 and whether or not it's an appropriate, the reliefs are appropriate given the circumstances. I will disagree with you, Mr. Wexler, on the relevance of the subject matter that Mr. Gray was talking about, because it does go to the balancing test, I think, in weighing the equities here, because that is one of the things that you have to consider. The overriding factor here is the elimination of the pre-existing legal non-conforming use and replacing it with 2 single-family houses. That's the overriding aspect of this application. As you know, as an attorney, the zoning abhors non-conforming uses. The opportunity to get rid of it and replace it with residential homes in a residential community is something that is much more beneficial to the residential community. It will fit under 267. It will be better with respect to real property values. It will fit better the character of the community for the residential properties. With respect to the requirements under the specifics of the area variances, when you look at them with respect to the numbers, first we'll talk about area. So under the code, if you eliminate the wetlands component of it, and I'll talk about that in a second, the requirement is
Can
11,000.
we just gainsay, eliminate the wetlands? Is that something-
I'll explain why in a second, but.
But isn't, and before you do that, just so you can focus it, isn't the wetlands part of the calculation for a reason?
Well, it is, except that in my opinion, it ignores reality in this situation.
But I understand, but reality is the law that we have to follow.
I understand that, but again, you're here, you're a Board of Equity, and you're here to grant equity. And the reason why you would do that in this case with respect to the wetlands component of it is, and when I say it ignores reality, it ignores the existing zoning, it ignores the lots around it, and most importantly, it ignores the existing conditions on the property. So what it is a math problem. It takes the fact that it touches wetlands, and then it basically says you now must consider it as AA 80,000 square foot lots. And then it's a math calculation to determine what you need.
So aren't you saying that in essence, though, isn't your argument that the transition to residential development on this lot subdivided is essentially the greater good and outweighs any potential negatives for your lack of dimensional, meeting the dimensional requirements? Is it really that your argument?
Well, that's the main part of the argument, but the dimensional requirements here are not, the area requirement, again, the 11,000 square foot require 11,250. In one case, the lot is more than that. The other, it's slightly less.
Right.
So to me, that's not insignificant. And as you relate to the lots around it, those lots are consistent in size.
Your question is, you're making 50-foot lots, and I think Mr. Wexler's point is there are no 50.
There are no 50 footers, but I agree with the 50 versus 75. But in this particular case, it's not as important as it typically would be, because when you're looking at that side of Brookville Avenue, on either side of the subject property, you have two undeveloped vacant parcels. One owned by the town of Islip. I think the other is also owned by, excuse me? They're both owned by the town of Islip. So they're not likely to be developed. So you have great separation between any houses that would, there is a house to the north of the vacant parcel. To the south is the bend in the road and the end of the roadway. So you don't have a house to the south. There's not going to be a house to the south of it. And on the north, there is the vacant lot, then a house, then more vacant land.
Right, but across the street to the north, you have a couple of lots that I'm looking at that seem capable of similar subdivision were this permitted.
But they clearly don't have the same conditions or situation. The uniqueness of this parcel, because of the industrial property on it, makes
Right,
this.
well, that goes back to my original.
No, I understand that, but
I'm just trying to understand.
I agree with the overall point is that you're replacing the industrial property with two residential. But when you, and of course, the numerics of the area variances are mathematically significant. I recognize that. But I think as applied, there are factors that reduce those conditions. And then the other factor that comes in here, the economics don't work if you're just building one house.
Well, okay, but that's the applicant's problem more than it is ours.
Well, no, I solely disagree.
I think though your point is well taken. I don't know if it carries the day or not. That's up to the board. But what you're saying here is, look, replacing this with two lots, even if substandard in certain ways and even meaningfully substandard in certain ways, is just so much better than having an industrial use there.
But again, the economics is a real situation. If you think about it, you have an industrial building, it's 2,600 square feet on this lot. It does have utility, limited admittedly, but it does have, and if to eliminate that to build one house, the economics just don't make any sense.
We're saying the same things, I guess, in different ways.
But again, going back to the question about, and Mr. Wexler made the point about the environmental, the situation is, when I say it's not in reality, the conditions of changing the property to build two houses on it, it's more than that. You also have the benefit of now reducing the amount of hard space on the property dramatically, reducing it's all covered in gravel. You're putting in new septic systems, you're putting in dry wells. So from an environmental point of view, you're creating a situation with a far better condition than what exists today. Again, that's the important
What's
point.
the point of two things? A, what's the point of having a code to protect wetlands if we can just, on a case-by-case basis, do away with it?
But you're not, but you are protecting, the betterment of the wetlands comes by the redevelopment of the residential property. It's far better than the existing conditions.
Because
You're eliminating the hard space, you're eliminating the pavement, you're putting in new septic system. Those conditions, I'm sure planning staff will echo that sentiment. I have no idea what they're gonna say, but I'm sure they'll agree with that.
Also smirking, so don't be so sure. But let me just follow up also, if I may, Mr. Breslin. You know, we see a fair amount of subdivisions, and a lot of times it'll be 70 instead of 75, or 62, and this is 50. This is a 33% relaxation when there is none in the immediate neighborhood. How do we, other than the fact that I agree with you when you state the law correctly, that the law abhors a non-conforming use, but not that much. Abhor is such a heavy word.
The Wexler corollary.
Yes. Maybe the law disfavors, we'll put it that way, but I get that. But then how do we then, in its place, I mean, would that mean, yes, grant 48 instead of 75 or 45, since it abhors non-conforming use? 50 is such a great relaxation, and there's none there.
Well, listen, I think you have to look at it with respect to the total package, because you're also talking about the vacant property next to it. That distinguishes it again. You're also looking at the overall balancing test. Remember, I know you.
One second, you used to vacant property next to it.
Both sides.
To the north of it?
And south side.
Both sides, he's saying.
So you stated earlier, Mr. President, that they're vacant, obviously, and they're
Town-owned.
Town-owned,
and so you don't believe that they'd be developed anytime soon? What's the
that's-
reason for that?
Well, because they're both municipal owned.
Say again?
Well,
Because they're owned by the
Mr.
municipality.
Breslin, when I was in the town attorney's office and the town had a significant budget shortfall, the policy was sell all the land.
But-
So
and-
these parcels, as I recall, never came up, but just because it's municipally owned, we did close on several transactions. Just because it's municipally owned doesn't mean it will never be developed.
And Mr. Nicola, if that were the case, certainly in that event, then the buyers would be buying with the condition, them knowing the conditions that exist. We wouldn't be altering the pattern of development or changing the character of it. They would be buying into that condition that they would know. Again,
I
I
like
think.
that argument, and I've used it several times myself.
And I think they would much prefer, if they were doing that, buying into that condition than buying next to the industrial building.
So do you have any success with it, Mr. Nicole?
Yes.
In Brookhaven, not in this board.
It sounds like they're trying to shoehorn two houses into it.
Well, one,
For at least 22, at least 3 houses more of the property, where that same could be done in the future.
well, I think the condition with the industrial building changes the dynamic here
It could be argued that
completely.
the situation here is factually, so sufficiently factually dissimilar that it would not constitute precedent. I mean, we're getting rid of an industrial non-conforming use in a residential neighborhood.
But is that part of our goal? I mean, I understand, I think we all understand the arguments, but is that an argument, a winning argument for us that, listen, even though it's a substantial relaxation, we're making it better than it was? I don't know at the end of the day if that carries.
The part of the variance.
One house would be just as better, just as good as.
Yeah.
But
One of the variance
one
tests-
won't work for the applicant, because why would get rid of the industrial building?
Like I said before, that's not really our problem.
Well, but I think it is.
I agree.
No, you can leave it.
Neighbors in the town.
Yeah, but no, we get this, you know, we get this quite often when someone says, I need a relaxation of 30%. However, I can build it so that it complies and I don't need you. So we're still gonna do it. Oh, no, it's better.
No, but
No,
this is a different circumstance. Clearly, this is not a situation where the applicant's doing it solely because it's going to make them a better profit. This is either it works or it doesn't work thing. Again, most of you are in this arena, you know the business existence of what would happen here. The industrial building, I'm not sure it even makes money doing two houses, but to do one clearly doesn't work.
But, Mr. President, you're a lawyer and you've done a lot, certainly more than I have. You know that the economics is not something that, it's not in the five-part test.
It isn't, but it is when you, clearly in a use variance it is, but in this case, it's not, I agree. But it is in the balancing test in recognizing what overall is better as you discuss what's better for the community versus and what's better for the applicant. In this case, I think the overwhelming thing that's better for the community is get rid of that industrial building.
Mr. Garbarino, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the test in 267B, you consider the 5 factors while considering the question of the benefit to the applicant versus the detriment to the community, correct?
Right. We
Where's the
also
detriment?
consider the environmental factor, which Mr. Breslin says is better under this proposal than it is as it exists. So that's one of the factors.
Well, that is one of the factors of the environmental.
Do we have any analysis or anything to put some meat on the bones that this is much better environmentally? I mean, if that's one of the prongs, what do we have other than what you told us? Is there some sort of analysis that we can look at?
I'm going to let Mr. Jeter, the engineer, answer that question.
I'm sorry I asked.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. We have not done a environmental assessment, but we have done hydrologic assessments. Essentially, the current condition is that the entire property is sloped to drain the industrial use to the creek and the wetland. In the existing condition, there's approximately 12,300 square feet of hard pan gravel surrounding approximately 7,530 square feet of impervious area. So you have surfaces, industrial use, whatever may run off from that. No existing condition to capture that runoff prior to discharge into the wetland or creek. Obviously, the owner does everything they can to mitigate that currently. The proposal reduces the impervious area by 47%.
Do we know, I get what you're saying.
Yep.
Do we know what the surrounding houses, their frontage is? Are they all 75s?
I think there's a little variation. Do you have that, John?
On Brookville, on what would be the east side of the property, east side, there are very few houses. There's one house. And then there's a big tower as you get to the end of the block, so there's very little development. On the west side, there are a series of residential properties. Most of those lots, the frontages exceed 75 feet if you look at the map. If you go to 47th Road, 47th, which is right diagonally opposite the subject, and it turns, that's where the lots are smaller. Those frontages are more like the 70, 75 along there, but there are no 50s.
Okay, also, do you have any pictures? I was looking through your submission, Mr. Breslin. Do we have any pictures on how awful the current condition looks that you're trying to make better? I mean, you should really have some really bad looking ugly pictures. I mean,
I just took it from the front.
I mean, that's what I would do if I was you. Do you have?
The street condition, I've got a couple packages.
Yeah, would you, please?
Jay, can you?
We also handed all shot.
I
So-
didn't hear you, but I'm sorry.
Well, while we have the engineer here, sir, and you may not have done this, do you know that the outflow for the industrial use as compared to the 2 proposed residences?
Yes, we do. It's 100% relative to the proposed use. So the proposed use, we're proposing to meet all town requirements for the house and the driveway. In addition, we're, as a request from the town, the proposed development would add 5 dry wells in the right of way.
I'm talking about the sewage.
Oh, the sewage. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
it's sewage over there, okay. I'm sorry.
It is
They
sewage.
have sewers?
Correct.
It is sewered and
we
and
had-
the proposed development will hook up to the sewage system.
Thank you.
The testimony earlier was that the septic systems would be improving, but there are no septic systems.
Here's another question.
You're in trouble.
I have, and whoever wants to handle that. You've shown pictures that I would have taken that shows how awful that building is. Why are we rewarding the current property owner so he can now make a sale of it and make money on it when they kept the property in such deplorable condition? It's not like rewarding them. I don't get it. And now you get to say, oh, look how bad they are, and we're going to make it nicer. I'm not following the I understand the logic, but it doesn't sit well with me unless you can.
We have.
Can I see this, Mr. If you're done?
Going back to the land swap for a moment, when we began good faith negotiations with the town, as a show of good faith to the town, we dramatically curtailed operations at the plant.
You know, but you have a cause of action if you think that you got duped, there's all of that. And
It's
probably
not- that
long
wasn't-
since expired, and it's barred by the statute of limitations.
Sir,
So, you know, I have to tell you, I personally am not sympathetic to that argument at all. If, in fact, I think it's probably backfiring on you in my mind. So you guide it accordingly,
And let me
okay?
just follow also. I'm just peeking over our chairman's shoulder. Your client is the current owner of the property.
Yes.
So hearkening back to my prior, they keep it in really awful condition and say, well, reward us because we let it look terrible all these years, but we're going to now sell it and we're going to develop it and make it nice. That's why you should reward us. That's like saying, you know, I've beaten my child for 25 years, but now I'm going to stop and he'll love me. Why do we reward them? It's your client.
We're not looking to be rewarded.
Yes, you are. You're looking for a relaxation. You're looking for something that you need from this board.
In a nutshell, we were told by the town.
I know, but the bad faith of the town is not
No,
talking.
it's not, but then we said, okay, what can we do? Planning suggested, well, we
But why
talked,
did they keep it looking like this up until today? How do you expect to get sympathy and say, we're gonna make it better? When you're the ones who own it. It's not like you're buying it from somebody.
Finish your statement.
Go ahead. Yeah.
again, there isn't a lot of activity at the site. Nobody is really spending all the money to maintain it because operations have gone down so much because of the good faith we had when the town asked us to slow things down and to stop the residential complaints. After the land swap didn't work, we met with planning and we said, well, how about a two-family house? We filed a change of zone application to go to CAA for a two-family house. That would allow us to recoup and everybody would be happy. However, at the planning board, even though they seemed in favor of it, there were certain residents who showed up and said, well, there aren't any two-family houses in this neighborhood. We don't think one would work. So the planning board said, well, how about a subdivision? You may need variances, but at least you would have single-family homes that would blend into the neighborhood. We said, okay. We put that application on hold and we filed an application for a subdivision. We went through engineering, we got comments, we revised it, then we came here. So we have been trying to be the good guys here.
Well,
We've been trying to find a use that will quell the neighbors' complaints.
I've never heard, and I've been a lawyer almost 38 years, I've never heard any lawyer ever say, I'm really not acting in good faith. My client, I've never heard anybody say that, so we get it, but.
Well, did you ever hear a client say, I'm gonna, on my own, cut back operations that are important at this facility so the residents will stop complaining while we negotiate? There wasn't a single complaint
We
received
don't
by.
have any proof of that. We have your word, and I'm not.
I don't know what you want. I'm trying to explain to you, sir, that we have been above board the entire time.
I'm giving you that. I'm assuming you're only acting with the very best of intentions. We have to look at the physical location.
I understand, and I understand that the variance may seem significant, and I know this board is concerned with precedent. However, this is a very unique situation, which is tied to the removal of a prior non-conforming industrial use in a residential neighborhood. with the concomitant truck traffic back and forth on Brookville Avenue, all of that gets eliminated. All the impervious surface, or a good deal of impervious surface, gets alleviated and replaced with landscaping. And this will look like it blends right into this residential community. This is a win-win for everybody. This was done at the direction of the planning department,
Mr. Gray.
planning board.
Mr. Gray, I appreciate all those comments. I'm going to ask actually Deirdre from planning, get some input if you don't mind from the planning department, because you mentioned it so many times.
Sure, please.
We'll go from there. Deirdre, anything? I'm sure you have a few things to say.
So it's gonna be better than industrial use, because, industrial use and residential in zoning, so it is very out of place, and it's not great for any of the residents, obviously, nearby, they don't like it. So having the two residents of the proposing would be a better use. I'm not saying it's the perfect solution to everything that's happening with this particular property, but it technically would be better than industrial. With the whole wetlands thing, I'm a little bit more nervous about that because that is very large relief. I know the New York State DEC takes all that kind of stuff very seriously. You can't build within 100 feet of the wetlands and that kind of stuff. So that gets a bit more, that's kind of state stuff. So don't really want to, speak on that front exactly.
Can I just interrupt you? What bad happens if you build too close to the wetlands and that much of encroachment?
You have to, usually from what I've seen, you get fined heavily.
No. What happens environmentally? They pass the wetlands.
It leaks into the wetlands, the waterways, and it starts polluting.
But they would have to get their own approval to build for that.
After they're done here, they go to DEC.
They would have to.
They would have to. So if DEC says, no way, this is.
There is about 150 feet from the wetland to the.
Right, so DEC, the wetlands and DEC, that's their own approval on that. My question to planning and yourself is, Mr. Gray had mentioned multiple times that on advice from the planning board and speaking about planning, and I believe his story to be accurate and true. What is planning's position on this application?
You for or against it? Yes or no?
For it, in the sense that it's better than.
Yeah, for it or against it? No qualifications. You have to follow on one side or the other.
Because it's better than industrial, and it's better than the one with two-family housing.
So do you support it or not? Okay.
Like with the other,
What would be the best version that
the
you want?
best version would be the one-family house.
Okay,
But
thank you.
compared to the other options that they want to go with, this is the best option.
So to clear record, you, planning department is for this application.
Thank you.
Does anyone wish to be heard in this application? Name and
This
address.
is Jerry Curtin.
Name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Gerald Curtin. I live at 137 Widgeon Court, Great River, New York.
How are you, Mr. Curtin?
Great. Curtin. Thanks for the opportunity. We've been living with this a long time. I'm trying to correct something. Our biggest problem was running tractor trailers and cranes up and down that street. That was how I had to worry every day.
So you're the principal of the owner?
I am the owner
Okay,
of
thank
the
you.
statewide and the owner of the property.
Thank you.
Sign up, who's Kurt Bar Enterprises?
That was a LLC we had set up for that
Oh, so
property.
it's a spin-off, but the same principle.
Yes, I own both companies.
There's a deed from Mr.
We're looking for a compromise. It's not ideal. We've extended ourselves.
What is the compromise?
To stay there and have heavy traffic of tractor trailers going down that street or moving away. And that's what we did.
But you're not moving because you're concerned about the neighbors and their tractor trailers.
Correctly, I think I am. This is, a concern. I could stay there right now. I could park my trucks and cranes there and function.
But your lawyer said that economically you're not doing well.
Well, in today's market, no. Not economically. Keeping that piece of property was very valuable to us because we could put our equipment there, we could work inside the shop. We moved out of the area all during this process because the neighbors were upset. It was a very trying time. So we therefore moved while all this was going on. In reference to the building that you looked at, we dealt with the town on the outside, and we had agreed to at least keep the outside cut, which we did. The inside growth, inside the fence that has stakes and colored on it was something we were not going to maintain because we really didn't use it. So our dealing with the town was we would keep the outside at least presentable, and we had the brown stakes put in the fence so it would be somewhat visible and good. This is a tough scenario. I know it is for you. The wetlands is right there. We're looking to build the 2 homes so that we can fiscally move on and go from there.
You'd have to get wetlands approval
Absolutely.
anyway.
You know, we've dealt with the DEC on this. We've had them there. I've met with them. We're dealing with another piece in the town of Islip with them. They were willing to actually, in the land swap, me do repair work and clean up at another site and give me more access here.
Sure.
I mean, that was how they worked with us on it. So they were in favor of betterment of raising it and doing a better job with the ground cover.
All right. Well, thank you for your
Okay.
words.
Any other questions?
Just one question, since you're here. If we were to deny the application, what would you do with the property?
I don't know.
Okay, honest answer.
I really don't know. There's a lot of options. We spend a lot of money. I would most probably try and use it because right now, with the way supplies are in the construction industry, we need every piece of space we can to store materials. It's not something I want to do.
Yeah.
I'd rather
Appreciate
not
your
do.
honesty.
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Come on up. Just name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Sally Weiss, and I live at 216 Brookville Avenue, which is like diagonally across from 205. And WEISS. I was here at the last hearing about 5 or 6 years ago, and I go up and down the street every day, and I have to say, with due respect, many times there's grass growing up high, there's a fence that's open. I mean, it is you know, it's not a nice looking piece of property. And
You gotta speak.
Address us, please.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but I really want to speak to them. But with all due respect, please respect the neighborhood and build one family house. That would be fine. I think that most of the neighbors, and there are not too many of us here, would love for that building to be down. We've lived with it. I've lived there since 1980.
What is the frontage of your property?
I'm sorry?
What is the frontage of your property?
100 by 200.
It's 100.
Yeah, and next door has got to be 100. I mean, I don't know the exact measurements, but they're pretty wide going back.
May I ask you a question, Mrs. Weiss?
Yes.
Looking at the 2 alternatives you have, the current industrial use continuing as is, or 2 single-family homes on separate lots, which do you prefer?
Actually, I don't like the fact that it's close to the wetlands, and I think 2 sewer systems or whatever, all that stuff is disturbing a lot. So I have to say, between those 2, I would rather put this on hold and bring it up again, look at it again, get the DEC to look at it, and put a one-family house, like the rest of the neighborhood is.
That's not an answer, though. He gave you a choice between 2 things, and you chose something
Well,
different.
I was like, who am I like? I'm like her, who says the same thing. That's not really an acceptable choice to me.
No,
But that is your choice.
Well,
It may
not
be.
saying you have binding authority.
No, it's not my decision to make. I'm just expressing my
Okay.
opinion.
Okay.
My take is
As
what
a-
you're saying is you are conflicted with Mr. Nicolia's question, which is a good, like, cross-examination question, in that you don't like the way it looks, and you really don't love the fact of having 2 50s, so why should you be thrust into that Hobson's choice? They're
Right.
neither of them are happy.
It's like a Sophie's Choice, right? Do you throw your kid, the movie Sophie's Choice? It's like that.
Yes,
Yeah. And I don't want to have to be in that position because that's awful.
thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Have a great night. Thank you for your time. Does anyone else wish to be heard in this application? Come on up, sir. Good. Name and address for the record, please speak. You guys speak into the microphone. We can't hear you. They can't hear you over here either.
So my name is Robert Daniels. It's 215 Brookville Avenue, Daniels. So my property is right next door to this, and I do have 100-foot frontage. And of course, I do believe that a single-family house would be the best alternative. My question is, why was the building never taken down? And what is the DEC going to do to monitor what goes into the stream?
Well, I don't know why the building was ever taken down. I don't think it was, in my opinion, I haven't seen anything that put into the town in the position to take it down and to level it. And the DEC would have to answer that when they look at the plans and approve the gentleman for whatever he's going to do on it. That's the DEC, that's not us. We're just here for the zoning board.
So I can tell you in my backyard, it's 50 feet to the stream.
Okay.
And the stream runs right across the back. So I'm sure theirs is pretty close too.
Right.
The other question is, does their plans include a basement? Because we have a very low water table.
I don't know if they include basement or not, to be honest with you.
I did not see the plans either.
They don't.
Because I don't have a basement either. We're on a slab
basement,
because of the
yeah.
groundwater,
Yeah.
so high. So
Yeah.
my concern, which was for the last one, for the two-family house, is still, who's going to monitor what happens to when they destroy the building? Where's the dust going? How's it going to affect the stream
Sure.
and the wildlife and all
Well,
that?
whatever construction they get approved for, if any, they would have to abide by all the regulations and code. So we're not DEC, we're the zoning board.
No, understood.
I'm going to ask you the same question that Mr. Nicoli asked the lady prior to. If you had a choice of this industrial building or two single-family homes on two separate lots, what's your choice?
I would stick with the building that's there because two 50-foot wide lots still wouldn't be appealing, and the grass is not always greener.
Okay.
Well, that's the truth. You know, they don't really maintain it as well as one would like, and they did put the things so you can not see through it, so you don't see much of it except for the top of the building as you drive down the block. But with two single-family houses there, we don't know what you're gonna get.
Sure.
Plus, the flooding at the end of the street is insane. We get a little bit of rain, that whole corner is underwater.
Okay.
So how is that going to be remediated when they do some sort of construction? If they build a property up higher, it's going to push more water out to the street.
You can readjust it once he's done. You got to bring it back up.
Okay. So, I mean, that's really what I have concerns about because we have to drive on the road.
Sure.
Yeah.
Again, I'm assuming if there was any engineering from the town of Islip approval for anything he's going to do, I'm assuming they're going to have the proper plans and engineering and all that jazz to be done with it. But that, again, we're just a zoning board, so.
Understood.
Appreciate your concern.
Okay, I'm done.
All right, thank you, sir. You want to answer?
Yeah, just to address Mr. Daniels, I believe, concern. So as part of the development of the two lots, we would be putting in new curb and obviously the dry wells I spoke of earlier. If you look at the photos that I provided there, it's the drainage issue at the end of the road. Essentially, it doesn't drain out for probably 2 days, 3 days. And to mitigate that existing condition, that's no fault of our client, we will be putting in dry wells and catch basins to catch the water coming from upgrading towards Mr. Daniels' house towards these properties. What you see in that photo will be entirely mitigated, leaving the existing vector habitat, essentially it's a mosquito habitat there now, and we'll make sure that we're providing complete relief of that drainage.
Okay. Thank you very much. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Would you like to
Just
have any
a
closing?
couple of things. We'd also have no issue with this board making that a condition as far as what Mr. Jeter said about putting the wells in. And finally, he said his house, I believe, was 50 feet setback from the wetlands. The proposed houses are set back 150 feet
150 feet.
from the proposed wetlands.
Okay, great.
Curves around.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to be heard? Does the board have any further questions? Mr. Nicoli, I'll take a motion.
Motion to reserve decision. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We reserve the decision. We have 62 days by law. We'll do the best we can to review everything.
Thank
And
you.
we'll get back to you with a rendered decision.
Very good.
Have a great night. Thank you all. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, there are 7 accessory apartment renewals on the agenda tonight. I would move that they all be approved for a period of 3 years.
Make a motion?
That's my motion.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, Marianne's got them.
Okay, and we have some decisions to read.
I don't either. When you ask me, I'm like,
Because there's
Mr. Chairman, our first decision tonight is number 428.
Wait, hold on. We got someone holding on us.
No, I'm sorry. Number 428-21, Calvosa Custom Homes Corp., 787 Locust Avenue, Bohemia. In accordance with the proposed written decision dated October 19th, 2021, on motion of
All in favor?
opposed, Mr. Wexler's opposed as well, 3-2 vote. Number 517-21, Oscar O. Alarcon, to leave detached garage having side yard 3 feet instead of required 3.3 feet instead of required 4 each, and 6-foot fence on property line. Granted as the garage, denied as the fence, on motion of Mr. Nicolia.
Motion. All in favor?
Aye. Last one, number 465-21, My Short Sale Properties, Inc., 104 Elroy Avenue, Holbrook. In accordance with the proposed written decision dated October 19th, 2021, denied as submitted as the FAR of 33% granted with an FAR not to exceed 30% granted as to the remainder. I'll make that motion.
I'll second that
All in
motion.
favor?
Aye. That concludes our business. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.